Shalom. All praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashai, Bahasham, Raka, Kodash, double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone, and salutations to all you sincere Kiam. And this is your brother Abawan back again with another video through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashai, Bahasham, Raka, Kodash. All praises and all glory is due. Right, so this is the book of Habakkuk 1 verse 4. Therefore the law is slacked, and judgment doth never go forth. For the wicked doth compass about the righteous, therefore wrongful judgment proceedeth. Right, and the title of this video will be Two-Tier Justice System, or The Law is Slack in Babylon. And this is just a video that I'm just doing to going into the two-tier justice system of Esau Edom based on current events, man. Because the Most High Yahweh Shai stays exposing Esau, man, and exposing their wickedness, exposing their prejudice, exposing their hatred for you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, the scattered Israelites that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, and also exposing Esau Edom's pure and unadulterated wickedness. And we see that these things being exposed, right, by just simply looking at the different cases that are in courts today, or rather different cases that are going on right now, that are really breaking the news. Like, for example, the whole Shannon Sharp situation, right, where he was basically accused for sexual assault, okay. And then you now have the Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf situation, where you have this teenager that basically stabbed another teenager at the track meet, right. And basically now you see, if you go online and look at what these Edomites are saying about that situation, they're basically saying, hang that nigger, hang that nigger, right. That's why are we allowing this violent nigger to be running around this place. That's basically what Esau is saying online, man. And look at what, and just open up the news concerning this whole Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf situation. You see that everything is just based on what's actually happened in that case, and you're not really seeing too much information on actually just that, what actually happened in that case, okay. Because what's happening right now is that Esau is just trying to pull all kinds of lies and slander in order to get this child put in prison. But when you look at the actual situation and what really went down, and in fact I think another situation actually came up again, where you had this dude that's that was arrested like a couple of years ago for on false grape accusations. Two of these white women claimed that that this man raped them when he was 14. Let me see if we can find that let me see if I can find that in the news. So this let's see if I can find it in the news. So this individual, I think he just recently got out of prison, but in this but in Babylon, man, there are a lot of these cases about different men being accused of rape, right. So I'm looking for the actual correct one. So it was two women that were sisters, and this happened decades ago, right, about a man that was, let's see if I can find it. That's not it. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to find it, right. But also that's another situation that is similar to what you are seeing out here with this Carmelo Anthony and Shannon Sharp situation, right. So if you are familiar with the information, let's just go into the news article. Just click any news article. Let's click the first one. Of course, I'm not going to go to Fox News because Fox News are a bunch of Edomites. What the hell is that coming from? Like I was saying, Fox News are a bunch of Edomites, man. So I'm not even going to bother playing that one. Alright, let's do CBS. Carmelo Anthony charged in fatal Frisco track meet stabbing, released on bond, right? So what you have is the latest information about this case. So he was recently released because he was actually imprisoned, right? So he was instantly put in jail. And the funny thing is that he wasn't that turned himself in, or the funny thing is that he was the one that turned himself in. And so okay, let me just pause this. Let me just make sure that no video is playing right now. So I think I should try and look for a way to lower the volume of, especially from this Chrome, right? Like that. Oh, okay. So like I was saying, and Lord really not no audio is playing under this because the audio that is coming out from the phone, I can't really hear it. So I won't be able to know if audio is actually playing. So like what I was saying, right? Carmelo Anthony, he's basically the Jake that is being charged for putting this Edomite to death, right? So let's read the article. Carmelo Anthony, the 17-year-old charged with first-degree murder in the fatal stabbing of a teen at Frisco track meet earlier this month, was released from jail on bond Monday. Earlier on Monday, a Collin County judge lowered Anthony's bond from $1 million to $250,000. Anthony walked out of the jail silently with few people by his side. However, his mother and father were not seen with him, right? So basically this kid turned himself in after he, stabbed the white guy, right? The white kid, the other white kid, right? And ultimately he was thrown in prison and given a $1 million bond. $1 million, right? Just to show you Esau is the devil, man. But let's keep reading this article and I will now compare a similar case that happened between Carmel, let's compare a similar case that happened, but this time the suspect, right, the person that did the stabbing was an Edomite and the victim was a Jake, right? So Northern Kingdom, basically the Northern Kingdom, Issachar, or one of the other tribes. I think it was either Issachar or Ephraim, either Mexico or Puerto Rico. So yeah. Earlier, I've already read that. So let's read more. His family and the family of Austin Metcalf arrived at the Collin County courthouse with extra security. Unfortunately, as is common in our culture, especially lately, the vitriol and public reaction, one way or another, has been intense, and threats and talks of race, war, and all kinds of insanity isn't good for obviously the Anthony family, said the defense attorney Mike Howard. It is not good for the Metcalf family. It is not good for the peace and safety of our community. Right, so let's see if we can get some details surrounding this case. If I actually, go into what I personally know about this case from, just following it and listening to the different investigations, right? So Anthony had been in the Collin County jail since his April 2nd arrest for the alleged stabbing and killing of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a Frisco ISD track meet. According to witness statements, Anthony and Metcalf were involved in a verbal dispute, and at one point, Anthony pulled out a knife and stabbed Metcalf once in the chest. And of course, that stabbing once will be relevant, so keep it in mind, right? Let's continue. Anthony complied with officers at the scene and was taken into custody, right? Because he turned himself in, okay? And that's the reason why, and after turning himself in, he was put in jail, man. County jail, of course, but still jail anyway. And they now set the bond at $1 million, even though the details of the case are still very much unclear. And even though, and let's just keep reading and see if it will actually be mentioned in this article. While in the police vehicle, Anthony reportedly asked the officer if Metcalf was going to be okay and if what he did would be considered self-defense. Right, so Anthony will be required to wear an ankle monitor and to stay inside his parents' home under adult supervision with an approved adult. He is also not allowed on social media and cannot engage with his classmates or anything related to school. Alright, so they didn't go into the details of the case, right? And I don't have time to start looking for the details of the case. I just say everything that I am 100% sure of, and you can quote it and check it anywhere. And the first thing I know I'm sure of is that there were cameras that basically showed the whole interaction, okay? But that footage has not yet been released, and most likely will be used during the actual trial to see whether this case can be either a self-defense or negligent. I don't even think they're going to do that one, right? But that's self-defense basically, because if you look at the details of the situation, it was very obviously self-defense, and even both the family, both the brother and the father of the victim, Austin Metcalf, has already admitted to this being self-defense. Let's see if we can find well, it's not showing what's going on. It's not showing the what, why is it not showing the tabs? Hold on. Okay, let's see if we can find out whether so brother of Austin Metcalf admits self-defense. Let's see if we can find out whether so yeah, it's not showing anything like that here. But basically, the brother of the victim actually admitted that that basically that what happened, it was self-defense because they were threatening him. Okay, so that's basically the details of the case, right? And also you have the same Shannon Sharp situation where you have this female accuser, and I've forgotten the woman's name, and she's coming out and saying, well, Shannon Sharp raped her and assaulted her, so she's looking for like 50 million to settle the case in civil court, of course. And with the lawyer, and if you know about the lawyer, you obviously know, if you've been if you've been following the Diddy case, right, you obviously know the name of the lawyer, Tony Busby. Okay, so these are the different situations that are happening at this time to Jake, right? You have two Israelite men that are currently going through different situations here in this kingdom where they are basically being proven guilty, right? With before any actual trial or investigation into the case has gone in. So let's go and look at this, okay? So this is KCENTV.com. So right, let's see. Let me go back a little bit because I think okay. So right, this is the case. This is KCENTV.com. Verdict returned in murder trial of former Belton High School student Casey Allison. Allison was accused of stabbing Joe Ramirez in the bathroom of Belton High School in 2022. Belton, Texas. A jury returned a guilty verdict for criminally negligent homicide Tuesday in the trial of a former Belton High School student, Casey Allison. It came after more than 12 hours of deliberation. Allison was accused of stabbing Joe Ramirez to death in a bathroom of Belton High School in 2022. He faces up to 6 months to 2 years in a state jail facility, according to Allison's defense attorney, Zachary Boyd. So basically the same situation, right? A fatal stabbing between two teenage students, right? And I think they're even basically the same age, right? But yeah, a fatal stabbing between two students, right? And we haven't yet gotten into the details of this case with Casey Allison. But basically, already seen that the court has already let him off with negligent homicide, which is a step down, which is a step below self-defense. So if you get negligent homicide in the US, right, and it was actually somebody else that actually mentioned this, that basically the maximum sentence, okay, the maximum sentence for negligent homicide in the US is 2 years in jail, and the minimum sentence is basically some light community service. Basically, you get off. In other words, you get off completely free, no punishment for you. So that's what this kid right here got. And let's just say that this case in Allison dude, and I don't think they are showing his picture anywhere here. Okay, yeah, this is him right here. He's of course, an Edomite looking individual. Okay, and it's basically the same situation that you have between this Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf case. So you have Carmelo Anthony stabbing Austin Metcalf once in the chest, and it's becoming a homicide situation, right? So you have the same situation with this here right here between Kason Allison and I think it's Joe Ramirez. Okay, so let's just read some of the details of the case. Those in attendance were informed that the jury had returned a verdict at 10:45 a.m. Shortly after, people piled into the courtroom, anxiously awaiting. Joe Ramirez's mother walked in crying. People on both sides were reaching for tissues, had their heads down, and were rocking back and forth. Judge Wade Faulkner entered at 10:50 a.m. He acknowledged the high emotions of this case and reminded the members of the gallery the rules of the court, asking everyone to maintain silence, be careful, and stay seated regardless of what was read. The elected four-person. Okay, this is just going on, just going on. Right. Let me see. 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 All right. So let's just go down a little bit. Okay. In order to convict on murder, the jury had to consider three theories, which were based on whether Allison intended to harm Ramirez. If they did not return a guilty verdict for murder, they also had to consider manslaughter, and if not manslaughter, the least severe of all the charges, criminally negligent homicide. Over the course of the trial, the states tried to make a case that Allison could not have acted in self-defense. They pointed to a number of facts to support that theory, including an alleged threat he made on Snapchat to Ramirez, his actions when he walked into the bathroom and did not choose to leave, and his discarding of the knife after it happened. The jury had to consider whether or not the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Kason did not act in self-defense, and they wholly failed to do so, Boyd said. And let's not forget the shadow cast by the investigation itself, the failure to Mirandize Kason at the arrest, the minimization of Kason Allison's rights under the Miranda at the beginning of his interrogation. This is going into something else, right? Basically, what you have is, and really, so basically, what you have is you have a similar case, right? The same situation, a similar case, right? But you see different reactions and different results to them, because when this stabbing happened in 2022, it was crickets. Nobody said anything. Nobody accused this Allison guy of being a murderer, of being violent and evil and wicked, and all the other things that Esau likes to put upon Jake. But really, all it comes down to, right, the reason why I'm doing this video is because you are seeing a discrepancy, you are seeing an inconsistency in the way in which Esau judges in his kingdom. So when you have an Edomite committing this crime, right, he gets the minimum sentence, irregardless of whether you believe it was self-defense or not. He still got the minimum sentence, criminally negligent homicide. But when it comes to this Jake, right, and Carmelo Anthony, which of course it can be proven that he was acting in self-defense, because the case has already been made. The case was already made, which is why his bond was dropped down from $1 million to $250,000, and he was ultimately released on parole and put an ankle monitor on him, because the case for his self-defense can be made, okay? Because it was proven already that, hey, look, I'm not really going to see anything right now. Let's just wait until the court hearings begin, and you'll see what the situation actually is, right? But this is a case of two different experiences when dealing with Esau's justice system. And what this shows you Israelites, is that this Esau system was basically made to prey on you, okay? That's basically what it is. Esau system was made to prey on you. So you Jakes can never have justice in Esau's system. So let's get this precept. Let's get this precept. Let me just get Nahum 3 verse 1. Woe to the bloody city, it is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not. Right. Lies and robbery, rape, robbery, murder. That's how Esau operates, man. Let's get another one. Shebi, you see the situation that is going on right now with Shannon Sharp, right? And hey man, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you obviously live under a rock, because this is a major deal that is being pushed all over the internet by Esau Edom. So basically, Shannon Sharp has been accused of rape by one of these let's just say like it is, man. Some of these hoes that he's been having relations with, okay. And hey, look, in nothing, as long as the woman in question is not betrothed or married to anybody, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But the situation now is that, well, she's accusing Shannon Sharp of assault, and basically she's asking for over $50 million in bond. And of course, all this is happening in civil courts, okay. So in Babylon the Great, you have the civil courts and the criminal courts, and basically what a civil court is that if you have an issue with somebody else, you can sue them to civil court. So all these situations where you have that people are suing people to courts, it usually happens in civil courts, right? Meanwhile, the criminal court is more for exactly like you heard, is a criminal cases. So case on Allison, right? Carmelo Anthony, they are going to criminal courts for their own cases, right? Meanwhile, Shannon Sharp is going to civil court, and this woman that has accused him of this crime is taking him to civil court, right? In the hopes that if she wins the case, ultimately Shannon Sharp will owe her $50 million, which is a bar, which is bars, okay. That's a lot of money. All right, that's a lot of money. So yeah, and this is now let's look at this situation right here. Ex-Abercrombie CEO unfit for trial on sex trafficking charges, judge rules. The former CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch is mentally unfit to stand trial on charges he and two others operated a secretive international sex trafficking scheme. Right. So while Shannon Sharp, right, and Carmelo Anthony are going through their cases right now, in Esau's justice system, you have this case on Allison, and also the Abercrombie and Fitch CEO that has basically been charged with the same charges that was on Diddy, right? Sex trafficking, racketeering, so on and so forth, right? And he was just declared unfit to stand trial, so he was let go, just like that, right? And this shows you, man, Esau's system is not equal, okay. Esau's system is not equal. Esau's system is not just. These devils are wicked as hell. Because what happened is, and let's just go into it. Michael Jeffries, 80 years old, who served as the CEO of the clothing company from 1992 to 2014, along with Matthew Smith, 61, and James Jacobson, 71, were arrested in October 2024. Imagine that. So this former CEO of this major clothing company was arrested since 2024, and basically nobody knew, right? And that's why there's always this rule of thumb that, hey, if a crime happens and you don't see the face of the criminal, you can always assume it's an Edomite, because Esau loves to cover up the crime that their people commit. Meanwhile, when Jake, somebody just steals a bag from Walmart, man, Jake's face will be all over the news, everywhere, right? That's the reason why you even know about this whole Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf case, because it's something that happened in some random ass county in Texas. Who the hell knows Frisco, Texas, bro? And yet he's being paraded all over the US as the face of so-called black violence and so-called black criminals and so on and so forth. But then you have a similar case with this case on Allison, right? And once again, nobody knew about it. The only reason why people are even bringing it up was because they saw the disparity between how Carmelo Anthony is being treated, right, in the courts, and then how this case on Allison individual is being treated in the court. So what I want to do right now is I want to go to the chat GPT and ask chat GPT just a quick question just to see, the differences. Where is that chat GPT? This is calculator. Chat GPT. Right, to see the differences between how Carmelo Anthony was treated and how Kayson Allison was treated. Now I have to wait for this thing to finish loading. Let me just leave it first. Let's go back into this. Let's just keep reading this. Okay. So yeah, Michael Jeffries, who served as the CEO of the clothing company from 1992 Slovakia to 2014, along with Matthew Smith and James Jacobson, were arrested in October 2024 in what prosecutors said was an organized interstate prostitution enterprise that involved transporting young aspiring male models to events in New York and other places around the world and coercing them into having sex. Right, so basically the same thing as the Diddy situation, right? As the Diddy situation, because you also have the same claims being made about Diddy that, oh well, Diddy promised all these, and the same thing with Harvey Weinstein as well. Hey man, all these major sex trafficking rings that you always see in Hollywood and the like, and it's the same situation right here. So basically he was carrying around all these male models and promised them, right, fame and fortune for schmexual favors, okay? And low key, quiet as kept. It's the same thing that Esau be doing to all these rappers and these musicians and these celebrities as well. Alright, you understand. So now continuing on. Jeffrey's attorney said in April that he had dementia and would be unable to stand trial, prompting Judge Nusrat J. Chondhuri of the Eastern District of New York to order a competency hearing. Chondhuri ruled on May 2nd that Jeffries was mentally unfit and would be hospitalized for retreatment and re-evaluated for up to 4 months. Legal representation for Jeffries previously vehemently denied any wrongdoing, according to the BBC. Right, so basically they do basically made an insanity plea, because you know how all these Edomites, man, whenever Esau gets hemmed up or caught up for a crime that he commits, Esau always makes the insanity plea that, oh man, this individual is not in his right mind, that he needs to be put in a mental institution, not a prison. And that's basically the same thing that Esau did right here. So while Shannon Sharpe is being dragged through the mud, right, by this individual that it has already been proven in tapes that she was willingly having these she was willingly getting popped by Shannon Sharpe, man, right? And she was just one of his women that he was just dealing with, okay, that they had an agreement and everything, he is still having to, right, he's still going to have to go to trial over this matter. And that, like I said, man, this Esau system is unequal, okay? There is no justice in Esau system, especially for you Israelites, right? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, right? So let's see if this is actually finished loading. Okay. So now what I want to ask again? What did I want to ask again? And I can't remember what I wanted to ask them, ChatGPT. So I'll just leave it alone. Maybe the spirit will bring it back to me. So I can't remember what I wanted to ask ChatGPT. So yeah, like I was saying, there is no justice, right? There is no equality in the judgments of Esau's system. So let's get this preset. And this is why you there will have to go down, man. Because of let's get this preset. So this is the book of Proverbs 11 verse 1. A false balance is abomination to Yahweh, but a just weight is his delight. Right, and the false balance here is in the way in which Jake is treated when he commits a crime versus Esau Edom. And we already know, okay, brothers that are in this street already know how Esau operates in this kingdom, and what Esau is basically on, what Esau is about, right? We know that, hey, you should not expect any justice, right? You should not expect any righteousness from the devil in his own kingdom, right? But you still have so many of our people that still think that, hey man, they can go to Esau and Esau will actually, right, do the right thing. That's why you had these jigs for a while talking about some reparations, and I was like, hey man, it's no issue if you want to get your reparations, go and get it. But will Esau give it to you? That was the question, and now we know that these jigs, right, are never going to get their reparations because Esau is the devil which the Bible speaks of, okay? And what he is as the devil is a false accuser, which is how he has falsely accused Jake of, you know, being the evil, being the problem of this kingdom. Talking about black on black crime, so-called black on black crime anyway. Talking about, the violence in the hood and, oh, Chicago, right? That's what Esau always does, talk about how Jake is low IQ, how Jake is committing 50% of all the crimes in the US, which of course all these things are false, right? But that won't stop Esau from continuing to push these lies because he is a liar and the father of it, as it is written. So now let's get this precept. That is the book of. Wait, now that I think about it, I have another precept actually. I have another precept actually. I have another precept I actually want to go to, right? I believe it should be in the book of Isaiah. I'm trying to remember how that precept goes. I remember how that precept goes. This is of course referring to Jake, right? But it also applies to this kingdom as well because, like I said, the ways of this kingdom are not equal, and the judgments that are being meted out in this kingdom are not equal. So this is the book of Ezekiel 18, verse 29. Yet the house of Israel, yet said the house of Israel, the ways of Yahweh is not equal. O house of Israel, are not my ways equal? Are not your ways unequal, right? And even Esau will say the same thing, that, oh, the Most High Yahweh Sham Yahushai, right? That, oh, the Most High Yahweh Sham Yahushai, right? His ways are not equal, right? He's not a that basically the Most High is not a just judge, but yet we see the double standard. We see the clear what's that I'm looking for right now, bias in Esau's justice and Esau's judgment, right? But there is no double standard, there is no bias in the judgment of the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Those that are meant to perish for their wickedness will perish, and those that are meant to be delivered for their righteousness will be delivered, and everybody will receive their just reward. But you don't have that in this kingdom, right? But when you tell Jake, hey, it's time to get out of this kingdom, man, it's time to follow the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, that's when you start hearing Jake dropping all kinds of excuses. Well, I can't follow a God that lets children, innocent children, die, right? Even though it is written, whoever perished being innocent, and when were the righteous cut off, right? Well, of course, Jake. Well, of course, like I always say, man, Jake isn't. Jake is making excuses as to why he doesn't want to repent and be in this truth, because the only reason why Jake doesn't want to be in this truth is because they don't want to leave the world behind. They don't want to leave this kingdom behind, man, because the spirit isn't dealing with them. And that spirit that will make you, repent and return to the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is not in two-thirds of our people, right? So they would rather stay in Esau's unjust ass, wicked ass kingdom and suffer this, this whole situation right here, right? Where you have these Edomites basically, let's get that precept. The book of Psalms, the 73rd chapter, right? Let's get that. So this is the book of Psalm 73, verse 3. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Right? Because Esau got that, so-called white privilege, right? That's Edomite privilege where they can commit the same crimes as Jake, but get a different sentence. You can also even investigate. You can look it up, right? Google the disparity in sentencing, and you also see the same situation happen, right? Where Jake will go to court and get 30 years for possession of marijuana, right? But Esau goes to court and get 10 years for murdering his whole family. That kind of thing. So continuing on, yeah, that's basically all I wanted to read. Right, they are not in trouble as other men. They are not plagued as other men. Right, because in Esau's system, right, the the judgments are slack. The judgments are the judgments are slack, right? And Jake, amen. Jake gets a harsh, unjust judgments, right? Meanwhile, Esau gets nothing, not even actual judgments, right? Hey, but that's how it is in this devil's kingdom, and that's why we are constantly telling you, Jakes, to repent and to return to the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, because it's only the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai that can bring back righteous judgment, right? I can bring back proper judgment and just, and a just kingdom. Okay. So with that, I'll end the video right there. Once again, all praises, honor and glory unto the Most High. Yahweh Hashem Yahushai Ba'Hashem Kwadash Wa Abad Babal Shalom. And through the Spirit, I hope you are calm and you are quite edified. Shalom.